The deception, the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, buzzed with the translated voices of 100 different species, each more ancient and advanced than the last. Crystalline beings from the Andromeda spiral discussed trade routes with gas form. Entities from the outer rim, while mechanical intelligence units calculated resource distributions across 1,000 worlds. At the center of this cosmic theater sat the High Council, 5 species that had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony Coalition leaned back in his ceremonial chair, his 4 arms crossed in amusement as he watched the newest species to discover faster-than-light travel present their case for membership. The humans, as they called themselves, stood awkwardly at the petitioner's podium, their primitive spacesuits looking almost comical among the advanced environmental adaptations of other species. Captain Sarah Chun adjusted her helmet's communication array and tried to project confidence she didn't feel. Around her, the vast chamber stretched up into darkness, filled with beings that could probably destroy her entire homeworld with a thought. She had been chosen for this mission, not because she was Earth's best diplomat, but because she could think on her feet when everything went wrong. Today, everything depended on her performance. Honored Council members, Sarah began, her voice carried by universal translators to every corner of the chamber. Humanity comes before you seeking only peaceful trade and cultural exchange. Our species has much to offer in terms of art, literature, and basic manufacturing capabilities. A ripple of what could only be described as cosmic laughter echoed through the chamber. Admiral Vextar's species, the Kethmoran, had evolved from predatory pack hunters and retained their ancestors' cruel sense of humor. His scarred face twisted into what humans might recognize as a smirk, though the effect was far more terrifying, given his shark-like features and rows of gleaming teeth. "Tell me, little human," Vextar's voice boomed through the chamber's acoustics, "what exactly do you think you can offer to civilizations that have mastered the fundamental forces of the universe? Your species has barely learned to harness nuclear fusion, while we reshape stars for our convenience." Sarah maintained her composure, though inside she felt her heart racing. This was exactly what Earth's leadership had expected. The galaxy's established powers saw humanity as nothing more than primitive newcomers, barely worth their attention. It was a perception that Earth had worked very hard to cultivate. "You're absolutely correct, Admiral," Sarah replied with carefully practiced humility. "We understand that humanity is far behind the great civilizations represented here. We ask only for the chance to learn, to trade our limited resources for the wisdom and protection of the Council." The Mechanical Intelligence Unit designated. As Construct Prime spoke next, its voice a harmony of synthetic tones. "Database indicates human technology remains at developmental stage 2.3 on the galactic scale. Military capability assessed as negligible. Threat level 0. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Sarah noticed that even the usually stoic crystalline beings seemed to find humanity's situation amusing, their forms pulsing with what she had learned indicated mirth in their species. Stood from his chair, his massive frame towering over the assembly. "Very well, humans. The Council will consider your request for protectorate status. However, such protection comes with certain requirements." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. "What requirements, Admiral?" "Your species will provide 60% of your annual resource output to the Council. Your military development will be strictly monitored and limited to system defense only. Any expansion beyond your current stellar territory must be approved by this Council. And finally," Vextar's eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction, "you will provide genetic samples for our biological research programs." The chamber fell silent, except for the hum of the vast station's life support systems. Sarah looked around at the assembled beings, seeing calculation and greed in every face that could express such emotions. They weren't offering protection. They were demanding slavery with a diplomatic veneer. "I'll need to consult with Earth's government," Sarah said carefully. "When would the Council require our response?" "You have 7 standard days," Vextar replied dismissively. "Refuse, and humanity will be classified as a hostile, undeveloped species." "The galaxy is a dangerous place for those without friends, Captain Shan." As Sarah left the council chamber, she couldn't help but notice the way other species representatives looked at her with mixtures of pity and contempt. To them, humanity was just another primitive race to be absorbed into the galactic order, their resources harvested and their independence eliminated. But as Sarah made her way back to her ship, a converted cargo vessel that looked primitive and underpowered compared to the sleek vessels of other species, she allowed herself a small smile. If everything went according to plan, the galaxy's perception of humanity was about to change dramatically. Dr. Marcus Webb was waiting for her in the ship's cramped communication center, his weathered face betraying nothing of the excitement she knew he must be feeling. For the past 20 years, Webb had overseen humanity's most classified project, one that had consumed resources from across the entire solar system. "How did it go?" Webb asked as Sarah sealed the chamber's door behind her. "Exactly as predicted," Sarah replied, finally allowing her diplomatic mask to slip. "They see us as nothing more than another primitive species to be exploited." Vextar practically licked his lips when he delivered their ultimatum. Webb nodded grimly. "And the timeline?" 7 days to accept their terms or be classified as hostile. Sarah activated the ship's quantum communication array, a device that appeared far more primitive than it actually was. "Send the message, Marcus. Tell them the fish have taken the bait." Light years away, in a heavily shielded facility hidden within Jupiter's Great Red Spot, Commander Elena Vasquez received Sarah's coded transmission with satisfaction. Around her, the command center of Operation Prometheus hummed with activity as thousands of personnel prepared for humanity's greatest gamble. The facility itself was a marvel of human engineering, a massive complex that had been constructed over 15 years using automated mining equipment and advanced materials science. From the outside, it appeared to be nothing more than a research station studying Jupiter's atmospheric conditions. In reality, it was the command center for humanity's secret fleet. "All stations, this is Commander Vasquez," Elena announced over the facility's communication system. "Operation Prometheus is now active. Begin final preparations for Phase 1 deployment." Through the facility's armored windows, Elena could see the fruits of humanity's 2-decade deception, stretched out in the facility's massive construction. Bays were ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were sleek, angular vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls, equipped with weapon systems that had been developed in absolute secrecy. Prometheus-class destroyers were humanity's answer to galactic arrogance. Each ship was equipped with gravitational manipulation, drives that could achieve speeds that would make even the Council's fastest vessels look like antiques. Their weapon systems utilized controlled antimatter reactions and quantum disruption fields that could tear through energy shields like paper. But the destroyers were just the beginning. Hidden in construction facilities throughout the outer solar system, humanity had built an entire fleet of warships, carriers, and support vessels. The galaxy thought Earth could barely manage interplanetary travel. They had no idea that human ships had been operating in deep space for over a decade. Helena walked to her command station and activated a holodisplay showing the positions of Council fleets throughout local space. Intelligence gathered by human reconnaissance vessels had provided exact details of enemy ship numbers, capabilities, and deployment patterns. The Council's forces were powerful, but spread thin, confident that no significant threat existed in this region of the galaxy. "Dr. Webb, what's the status on our new arrivals?" Elena asked. Webb's voice came through the secure communication channel from Sarah's ship. "The Council bought the performance completely. They're so convinced of our inferiority that they didn't even bother with detailed scans of our ship. If they had, they might have noticed the quantum shielding and advanced sensor arrays. Elena smiled grimly. Humanity had learned the art of strategic deception from their own history. Sometimes the best way to win a war was to make your enemy underestimate you completely. All fleet commanders, this is Vasquez, she announced over the tactical network. Begin Phase 1 operations. Remember, we need to make this look like a desperate last stand by primitive humans. Let them think they're winning until the very moment we reveal our true capabilities. Across the solar system, human ships that had been masquerading as mining vessels and cargo haulers began shedding their disguises. Advanced stealth systems came online, hiding them from the galaxy's most sophisticated sensors. Weapons that had been concealed within seemingly primitive hull plating deployed and armed themselves. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's weakness and demanded their submission. In 3 days, when the Council's enforcement fleets arrived to ensure compliance with their ultimatum, they would discover that humanity had been preparing for this. Moments since the day they first detected alien communications decades ago, Captain Sarah Chun made one final transmission to Earth before her ship began its journey back to the Sol system. Her message was brief, but carried the weight of her species' future. The trap is set. Let's show them what humans can really do. Asterisk the revelation. The Council's enforcement fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system with the overwhelming confidence of a civilization that had conquered thousands of worlds. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, watching his tactical displays show the positions of 300 warships spread across local space. It was far more firepower than necessary to subdue a primitive world. But the Admiral believed in making examples. Scan the system for human vessels. Vexstar ordered his tactical officer, an insectoid being from the Hive Collective. I want to know the exact composition of their pathetic defense force. The scan results appeared on the bridge's main display, and Vexstar's expression shifted from confidence to annoyance. The sensors showed only a few dozen small vessels, most appearing to be the same type of primitive cargo ships he had seen at the Council station. That's it, Vexstar snarled. They're planning to defend their homeworld with mining equipment and cargo haulers? Construct Prime's voice echoed through the bridge communication system from its position aboard another Council vessel. Human. Vessel configurations match previous intelligence. No significant military capabilities detected. Recommend immediate surrender demand to minimize resource waste. Vexstar activated the fleet's communication array, preparing to broadcast humanity's final ultimatum. But before he could speak, his communication officer interrupted with urgent news. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. It's coming from one of their vessels near the 4th planet. Put it through, Vexstar commanded, curious to hear what pathetic plea the humans might offer. Captain Sarah Chan's face appeared on the bridge's main screen, her expression calm despite the overwhelming force arrayed against her homeworld. Admiral Vexstar, this is Captain Chun of the Earth Defense Force. I'm authorized to speak for my government. Vexstar laughed, a sound like grinding metal that made several bridge officers step away from their positions. Earth Defense Force? Is that what you're calling your collection of cargo ships? Captain, you have exactly one chance to save your species from extinction. Surrender now, and some of your people might live to serve the Council. Sarah's expression didn't change. I'm afraid we'll have to decline your generous offer, Admiral. Humanity has decided to stand and fight. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Vexstar stared at the human captain's image, trying to determine if she was insane or simply didn't understand the situation. Captain Chun, my fleet contains 300 advanced warships, each one capable of destroying your entire planet. You have perhaps 50 primitive vessels. This isn't a battle. It's pest control. You know, Admiral, Sarah replied conversationally. That's exactly what we were hoping you'd think. She paused, and for the first time, her expression showed a hint of something that might have been anticipation. Computer, execute Order Prometheus. Across the solar system, space itself seemed to ripple and twist as hundreds of advanced stealth fields deactivated simultaneously. Where moments before the Council's sensors had detected only empty space and primitive human vessels, a massive armada suddenly materialized. The bridge of the Dominion's fist erupted in chaos as officers tried to process what their instruments were telling them. Where 50 human ships had been detected, over 800 now appeared on every scanner and display screen. Impossible. Vexstar roared. Those readings have to be sensor ghosts or some kind of primitive jamming technology. But even as he spoke, the Admiral could see through the bridge's main viewport that the sensor readings were accurate. Sleek, predatory vessels unlike anything in the Council's databases hung in space around his fleet, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Commander Elena Vasquez sat in the command center of the UE's Prometheus, humanity's flagship, watching tactical displays that showed the Council fleet's complete deployment. For 20 years, human intelligence had studied every aspect of Council military doctrine, ship design, and tactical philosophy. Today, all that preparation would be put to the test. All ships, this is Commander Vasquez, Elena announced over the fleet communication network. The galaxy has underestimated humanity for the last time. Show them what we've been building while they laughed at our weakness. The battle began with a demonstration of human innovation that sent shockwaves through the Council fleet. Instead of the standard energy weapons that dominated galactic warfare, human ships unleashed gravitational distortion cannons that could crush enemy vessels like paper balls. Quantum disruption missiles phased through energy shields as if they didn't exist, delivering antimatter warheads directly to target hulls. Admiral Vexstar watched in horror as the first wave of his ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by weapons that operated on principles his species had never encountered. The Council's energy shields, which had protected their fleets for millennia, proved useless against attacks that struck at the fundamental forces holding matter together. All ships emergency scatter protocol. Vexstar screamed into his communication. Array, break formation and engage individually. Asterisk, but the human fleet moved with precision that spoke of extensive training and advanced coordination systems. Where Council ships operated as individual units, loosely coordinated by fleet command, human vessels functioned like parts of a single organism, each ship's actions perfectly synchronized with the whole. The Prometheus itself demonstrated capabilities that redefined what the galaxy thought possible. The massive vessel could apparently manipulate its own gravitational field, allowing it to perform maneuvers that should have torn any ship apart. It moved through space like a predator among prey, its weapons reaching out to destroy Council ships at ranges that exceeded their ability to respond. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, panic clear in its translated voice. We've lost over 100 ships in the first 10 minutes of engagement. Human vessel capabilities exceed all known parameters. Vexstar stared at the tactical display, showing red marks where his ships had been destroyed. Each of those vessels had taken decades to construct and contained crews that represented centuries of training and experience. The humans were dismantling his fleet like a child taking apart toys. Signal the emergency reserves, Vexstar ordered. Deploy all Council assets in this sector. I don't care if we have to strip defenses from 100 worlds. These humans must be stopped before word of this defeat spreads. Asterisk, but even as reinforcement fleets began jumping into the system, it became clear that the Council faced something unprecedented in galactic history. Human ships demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't have been possible for a species that had only achieved interstellar travel within the last century. Dr. Marcus Webb monitored the battle from his command post within the Jupiter facility, watching real-time feeds from human vessels throughout the combat zone. The weapons systems he had helped design were performing beyond even his most optimistic projections. "Elena, you need to see this," Webb announced over the command channel. "I'm detecting massive quantum signatures from the direction of the galactic core. It looks like the Council is calling in ships from across their territory." Commander Vasquez acknowledged the warning while simultaneously coordinating attacks against 3 separate Council battle groups. "How many ships are we talking about, Marcus?" "Preliminary scans suggest over 2,000 vessels, possibly more. They're mobilizing everything they have." Elena smiled grimly. Humanity had prepared for this possibility as well. "All ships, execute Phase 2. Let's show the galaxy what we've really been building out here." Throughout the solar system, massive construction platforms that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations shed their camouflage and revealed their true nature. These were shipyards, fully automated facilities that had been producing human vessels for over a decade. As the Council's reinforcement fleets arrived, they found themselves facing not just the 800 ships of humanity's initial deployment, but an additional fleet of over 1,500 vessels that had been held in reserve. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations suddenly found themselves outnumbered by a species they had dismissed as primitive just hours before. The final phase of the battle was less a military engagement than a demonstration of human technological superiority. Council ships that had ruled the galaxy for millennia found themselves outgunned, outmaneuvered, and completely outclassed by human vessels that seemed to operate by entirely different laws of physics. Admiral Vextar's flagship, once the pride of the hegemony fleet, drifted powerless in space as human boarding parties cut through its hull using tools that dissolved matter at the molecular level. The admiral himself sat in his command chair, staring at displays showing the complete destruction of Council forces throughout the system. "This is impossible," he whispered to himself. "No species develops this quickly. It took us thousands of years to build our first interstellar empire." Captain Sarah Chun materialized on the bridge through what could only be advanced teleportation technology, flanked by human soldiers whose equipment made Council military gear look like museum pieces. "The difference, Admiral, is that we learned from everyone who came before us. While you were busy being arrogant, we were studying every piece of Council technology we could get our hands on." Vextar looked at the human captain with a mixture of fear and confusion. "How? Our intelligence networks showed no evidence of advanced human development," Sarah smiled. "Because we wanted you to underestimate us. Every primitive ship you saw, every humble request for membership, every sign of human weakness was carefully calculated to make you overconfident. We've been preparing for this war since the day we first detected Council communications 50 years ago. The aftermath of the Battle of Sol, as human historians would later call it, sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy that would reshape interstellar politics for centuries to come. Within days, news of the Council fleet's complete destruction had reached every major civilization in known space. Species that had served the Council for millennia suddenly found themselves reconsidering their allegiances. Worlds that had been suppressed under Council rule began declaring independence. The galactic order that had remained stable for 10,000 years crumbled in a matter of weeks. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus as it led a human fleet toward the galactic core, where the remnants of Council forces were reportedly attempting to organize a final defense. Around her ship, hundreds of vessels from dozens of different species flew under human command. Former Council subjects who had decided to join what they saw as the winning side. "Commander," her communication officer announced, we're receiving. Surrender offers from over 50 Council worlds. They're requesting human protection in exchange for full cooperation with Earth's terms. Elena nodded, unsurprised by the development. Humanity had prepared for victory just as thoroughly as they had prepared for war. Accept their surrender and deploy garrison fleets according to Plan 7. Make sure they understand that human protection comes with human law. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's weakness and demanded their submission. Now, as human fleets spread across known space, establishing a new order based on cooperation rather than domination, those same species looked up at the stars and wondered how they had ever underestimated the resourcefulness, determination, and sheer stubborn pride of the human race. Earth had not merely defended itself. It had become the new center of galactic power, proving once and for all that sometimes this most dangerous enemy is the one you dismiss as harmless. Asterisk.